Women in the 1960s faced major oppression and equal rights with men, which prompted the feminist movement of their time, the movement mostly known as the second wave of feminism. This grew to be a large contender for women to grab the public's eye and speak out against the setbacks they were facing. One of the major catalysts of the women's feminism movement in the 1960s was the changing styles in fashion. Women saw this outlet for them to use and made it their own. The styles of fashion before the 1960s were very conservative and more traditional. It catered mostly to society's expectations of how women should cover their legs more and not expose anything to keep the reputations of themselves and their husbands. Women before this movement tried more daring looks, such as the flappers in the 1920s, but it never caught the average woman's eye. Fashion designers in this new era of women's ideals saw their old ways and decided to have the clothing that women were wearing match their mindsets of change. Mary Quant was a British fashion designer who became popular when she created the miniskirt in 1966. This was a huge change that everyday fashion had not yet seen. This miniskirt revealed a woman's legs and allowed women to embrace their bodies like never before. Mary Quant's style quickly moved to the United States and grew even more in popularity. Leaders of the women's rights movement, such as Gloria Steinem, showcased this style at many different public events for the movement, making it a trademark look for women of the time. Mary Quant shares her views on fashion and her take on fashion on an interview with CBC in 1968.
I think the point of fashion is not to get bored with looking at somebody. I think the point of clothes for women should be one, that you're noticed, two, that you look sexy, and three, that you feel good. I can't see that we wear them to keep warm. I just feel that as long as women are alive and enjoying being alive, whatever age they are, they should take, use, eat, wear the clothes of their time, you know? And that fashion is for now, not for necessarily teenagers, not for necessarily being 20 and 30 and old and dead in. Fashion is for now, and if you're still enjoying living, and you're still enjoying being a woman, and being sexy and being alive, then one wants, surely, to wear the clothes of today. There's nothing to do with age or anything else, it seems to me.
Mary Quant describes fashion as being in the now and shares her thoughts about fashion being much more than just wearing clothes to keep warm. The history about miniskirts is summed up best by a staff member from randomhistory.com saying, "Existing surprisingly since ancient times, this small and sexy piece of fabric has embodied some of the most fascinating paradoxes of our times, as it suggests both empowerment and vulnerability, independence and a desire to please, an attempt to cover and to reveal, maturity and playfulness, and liberation and exploitation. Simultaneously condemned and loved, the miniskirt exploded into the political landscape and had women and men suddenly paying attention to what had been hidden years before, a woman's legs." Women of this time looked up to many celebrities on how they should dress and if they should be daring enough to show their legs like the more involved feminist in the movement. Model Jean Shrimpton was interviewed about her thoughts on miniskirts.
I think I probably wear what's fairly fashionable because one's eye gets used to seeing it in the magazines and wearing it, and people who I'm sure who said they never wear miniskirts have come round to wearing them. I like miniskirts, I think they suit me. If the hem drops, I'll probably drop with it, but I don't pay much. But, it doesn't bother me one way or the other.
Jean made headlines for wearing a dress that showed off her legs. She got major backlash from her style choice. This did not, however, keep her from wearing her style as she continued to flaunt her legs off to the world. The TV culture that evolved in this era affected how an average woman thought she could dress like. An American actress, Goldie Hawn, debuted the bold style of the miniskirt on her show Laugh-In. This inspired women around the U.S. to don miniskirts, copying her signature mod style. One of the most influential women in the United States at the time, First Lady Jacqueline Kennedy, sported this bold style for women. Her fashion choices made it widely seen across America that it is appropriate for women to dress this way and reveal their legs. From women covering their bodies and legs to openly showing the world that mini skirts are appropriate clothing to wear, women also showed empowerment in themselves like never before. The second wave of feminism was filled with many different legal and social components, making this, as it seems now, a minor fashion statement, a large step for women to embrace who they were and not to feel obligated to hide themselves. Females in this era took a stand for themselves and all women, which even has had effects on how the women of today dress, and made history. This ultimately means miniskirts meant change for women in this era of feminism.